260.
Welcome, everybody, to the Synapse Philosophy Group. I'm your host, Dr. Haig, John, Chiropractor. And we are on page 263, principle number 25, the character of innate forces, principle 25. And I think that's amazing. And I just wanted to go and say, I have been digging through my archives of old notes, of seminar books, and some amazing audio and great stuff on chiropractic. And I realize this is lost a lot in a digital world of the greatness of things we took for generations of chiropractic. I have Sigafus's notes from the gatherings from his this, and I've got Arno Bernier's Masterpiece Training Camps booklets and the advanced camps. I've got DE books and all these great things, and I have been having a ball. Let me tell you, I have been playing with my toys, thinking of about, Pasquale said this, don't think about, how, chiropractic is. Think about how amazing chiropractic is, the awesomeness. And that's why he said, chiropractor, that is chiropractic. And it's very, very important to say our words distinctly and proudly. And we have worked, as individuals, very hard to get to where we are. Chiropractic as a whole has taken a lot to get to where we are. I feel the shoulders I'm standing on that are on more shoulders, that are connected to the spirit of the universe. Right. And I feel blessed today to be here with all of you. And I just had to say that to start it off. We've got Steve Shargell and Barry Hobbs today with us, and more people joining us. So welcome, everybody. All right. So without further ado, why don't we start on number 25? Okay. The character of innate forces, principle 25, page 263 of the senior text. The forces of innate never injure or destroy the tissue in which they work. Now, that principle comes up every single day. Your innate intelligence has not forsaken you. You still have the ability to heal. You have hope, right? That's where we give our people is hope. You have not been forsaken. God has not left you. You are still filled with spirit. You are the holy host. And that is, I think, one of the most important things that we have to get across to our people in chiropractic so they can get it to other people, right?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Whether you have cancer diagnosis, agnosis means I don't know, die means two. Two people have no idea what's going on, right? Don't believe in diagnosis. Everything can change. People have remission from everything. You have never been forsaken. That's what we get across to our people. That's what I try to get across in my talks. Yeah. What do you guys feel about that statement?
You said the word hope, and what's amazing about this is we truly, as chiropractors, especially the chiropractors who know our principles, we know, and us three do, we don't do the adjustment, and Nate does. However, talking to a regular human being that's not into chiropractic philosophy, that could seem a little off cue, off misconception, right? As far as tuning in, they're going to tune us out. We truly offer hope, and the more and better you know your technique, the science, the nervous system, the spine, the science behind it, the technique behind it, your hope is even more confident. And you're exuding that from the wonders and awesome people, forefathers and foremothers that came before us. And you truly hit my nerve there when you said we do offer hope. And as a chiropractor, you tell that patient, listen, you open up that brain to body communication, it's going to restore, it's going to readapt, it's going to do what innate needs to do. And principle number 25 here, never destroys or injures. Never.
Not destructive, right? when we call, what do they call, autoimmune diseases, right? Your body's attacking itself. There's another reason for that. It's not innate. It's not your spirit attacking you. Some other forces are involved with that, of why that is happening. We've proven that to be so over and over again.
That's a disharmony. Reconnect the spirit to the matter. This force unites the intelligence and the matter. Put in the force. Go take a step. Go see a chiropractor. Get that force unlocked. Exactly. Open it up.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And, you know, when we give people hope, their lives change, or help people see hope. We can't give it to them. We give them realization of it. And yeah, absolutely. Carol, I'm so happy to see you again tonight. I'm reading the next line. While there is wear on the part that function, excuse me, I'll read this a little better. While there is wear on the part that functions at the bidding of innate, these parts are just as rapidly repaired. On the contrary, oh, now I'm going to stop there. Okay. We rebuild. We know that now. They didn't know this then, that the heart rebuilds itself, brand new tissue 5 times a year. The liver regenerates itself, brand new tissue 6 times a year. The skeleton, a couple of times a year, brand new cells constantly regenerating in it. A cell's never repaired, it's replaced. I don't want something that's half used, not working so great, try and fix you up. We're going to get the best for you because you deserve it. That's what your innate wants for you. What it is wisdom. What we do is offer that wisdom. People know inherently, yeah, I get it. I just haven't learned how to believe in it yet. Okay?
Wow.
Stephen, I'm listening.
It takes me to, it urges me to go all the way back to our launching pad. And I turned all the way back to chiropractic as a deductive science here in the beginning. And it says again, the deductions are based upon a major premise that life is intelligent, that there is an intelligent creator who created matter, attends to its existence, and gives to it all that it has. If you don't accept that, then you don't belong practicing chiropractic. You can't throw that out.
You know, I think that's what they're trying to squeeze out of the profession.
Why?
It's easier to teach mechanics than it is spirituality. And for some reason,
you know, they're into the parts. They're into inductive reasoning. Not, we have the major premise and we deduct from it. That's the difference.
Yep, absolutely. All right, next one. On the contrary, the forces of universal, while they may cause an organ to act in a manner which resembles its function and causes which, and which causes wear, do absolutely nothing to repair it. The difference of universal. The actions of universal forces upon organisms may be so violent as to destroy them directly. The forces of universal, as for instance, electricity, will cause the muscles of a dead frog's leg to act like function, but it does nothing to repair it. When the wearing has wasted the muscle tissue, it will not be in condition to be called a good organic structure and will soon cease to act, to be reclaimed and reused, breaking it down into its smaller pieces for other things to use with universal forces to create.
Wonderful. That has its place too, universal forces.
It's absolutely necessary. You can't have one without the other. Go ahead, Barry.
So this is a key analogy when we use the car for the analogy of a human spine, you know, being in alignment, it's going to function better. And this is the key distinction between the parts, such as, you know, we talk about replacing parts, the hip, etc. But using this universal force, this happened to me this morning. I walked out, my hood of my engine was popped open. I'm like, why is that? Well, randomly, a piece of plastic inside of the Range Rover hood gadget broke because it's exposed to universal forces all the time. The air, the sun, You have to think about the beauty of our car, our vehicle, that it has that wisdom to constantly repair it. The UV rays, the wind, everything, the temperature, the stress, what you hear, every sense is under control, and plus some, besides the senses.
Absolutely. I love that. Then it creates the limitation in the matter.
This sounds ridiculous and obvious. Why even mention it? However, for me, it's what we're talking about. Just this morning, I've got a pretty new car. It's less than a year old. And just this morning, I heard a cracking sound and I didn't really notice it. And the windshield was cracked. Now I have to have it replaced. I have to take it to the Safe Light people. However, when I get hit by a pebble and it's cut open, I don't have to take it anywhere. I have within me the dealership inside of me. And isn't that wonderful? I wouldn't it be nice if they made a Toyota that you know it mends itself? No, they don't. They haven't cut. They can't even make one living cell. Science.
And the beauty is to transfer this philosophy, this principle to the people we know, whether in practice or telling them about the beauty of innate intelligence, this character of forces, where it's perfectly qualitatively, quantitatively making what needs to be repaired at every millisecond.
You know, and this is not belief.
Perfect amount.
This is not a faith thing. These are the laws of life. I mean, this is not some woo-woo stuff. We're talking about you cut yourself and you look at it a couple days. That ain't woo-woo. That's the fact, Jack.
You know, we take it for granted because we've been able to heal since we were born. We saw our scraped knees from skateboarding or whatever get healed. We take it for granted. Oh, you know, it's no big deal, whatever. But then when we have to trust it, you know, that's when we start second guessing it, right?
There's one more thing.
We've never been given these principles.
One more thing. Because I recently came from this basic group of people who believe in spirituality in a certain way. For us chiropractors, a horse is miraculous. We don't need to like make up unicorns. No, a horse in itself is a miracle of innate. So we talk about, you know, this is spirit and matter come together. It ain't woo-woo. It's fundamental law that we stand secure on. And this is our basis. And isn't it wonderful that we get to express this?
Well, you know, the other thing is, you know, who's talking about this in our profession? I mean, we've got a few years on this podcast right now. Bob, how long have you been in practice there? 30 years, more than 30 years, is that right? How about you, Steve? How long are you in practice?
Yeah, been there for 34 years.
Yeah, since 1986.
Since 1986, second generation, am I correct?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And then you have a third generation in your office now, okay, which is super awesome. Yep. Steve, how long were you in practice? And
I adjusted somebody today.
Yeah.
I opened my office in 1977.
Is that right?
Wow.
That's fantastic. God bless you and you and you. How about you, Barry?
And you?
25.
Wow.
25?
25.
I'm celebrating 20 this year. And you know what? I'm celebrating it. And I've decided that, right?
That's right.
But you know, we've got 100 years plus of chiropractic, more than 150 years on this podcast. You know, we've got to get, where is that passion within the schools? We need to bring that out. How do we get there? In the students, not the students, the faculty. The faculty. We have to educate the faculty. A short period, I was at Cleveland and Los Angeles, And I was student. I brought the ICA to Cleveland. I was student ICA president in Los Angeles, and every day, because I could get back into the teacher's room, I put chiropractic philosophy straight from the green books, and I put it in all of their cubbies, the little mailboxes. And it took about 2 months until I started hearing it in the classroom. Right? Am I the first person to educate the professor that's not a chiropractor, but teaches chiropractors? Right? Who's teaching teaching the teachers? We've got to get out teaching teachers. The students, they get it from the teachers. They're going to absorb it, right? We've got to get deeper into the faculty and make sure these deans are hiring the right people to educate. We're going the wrong way. We got to start with the teachers. Go ahead. I see you, Bob, unmuted. No? Go ahead, Barry.
Haig, you were talking about the 100 years of us practicing, and Steve made me think of something earlier. He's like, this isn't, Wuju. And I was thinking, back then in the 20s, the Palmers, I'm going to say the Palmers, other schools as well, particularly down in Texas, that was a Palmer school as well. It was natural law. It was about natural law. They had the vision of the autonomic nervous system, the diagram, and then at the brain it said human dynamo, and then the expression, just like a safety pin cycle. And they talked about natural law all the time. Do not violate natural law. If you violate natural law, you will get disease. You will also get disease. If you follow the principles, it'll open up. It was all about natural law. And when that reaches a big mass of people, these were people that were sheriffs, nurses, all over, just coming in, becoming chiropractors because they had results or saw a family member have results, such as Claridel. He witnessed his father, a miracle. His own father, 8 children, all of a sudden get up because he saw this chiropractor. Claridel has referred over 80 people to become chiropractors. That's just one family in this history, all because of these principles of natural law and innate. It's mind-blowing.
Natural law, not supernatural law. Natural law.
At a WCA event. He was an old man. I think it might have been the same Claridel. I met him, and he talked about all the chiropractors in his family. And it was I just sat at his table and just shut up and listened. I've met him before. That was amazing. All these people that have come before us, I have tears literally thinking about them. Because when I ask, someone, hey, you've heard of Jim Sigafus, and I start telling a story like, who's Jim Sigafus? Like, you got to be kidding me. Or Richard Santo, or all the others, whoever. I mean, there's so many. So, we're blessed. I feel blessed, but keeping this torch burning hot, that's where we're going. And that's where, there you go. Absolutely, Steve. Yeah. I'm going to read this next line. That's something which travels over the nerves, which is arranged in cyclic form, is really an intelligent current of life.
Right on.
That's the energy. We're talking about the safety pin cycle. That current of life energy. If anywhere it's broken, in reality, we have the beginning of death. And that's when the universal forces take over to reclaim that. I look at it as we're letting it out of the gate, right? When I was trying to understand it as a student, that's when universals take over. Universal forces to reclaim the energy. I'm going to read a little more. People used to think that a physical force or a chemical force that acted according to the laws of physics and chemistry and caused natural phenomena in the tissue of the body in a mechanical way, as a gravity does in falling bodies. They thought it might be electricity that flowed over the nerves, as it does over wires from the powerhouse, and that it might act upon tissue cells in a chemical way, as it does in a bath of silver plating. Now we find that none of these are true for the following reasons. If a body were to were governed by a law of as invariable as the law of falling bodies, and as inadaptable as it would be an automaton. If electricity, which is only a form of energy, were a power that governed the actions of organs, it would be as apt to destroy the nerves and tissues as it does the wires from the powerhouse and the lamps and motors, unless it too is governed by an intelligence. For electricity does not exhibit any solicitous concern for the material through which it works. Neither does chemical action do so. Besides, if these facts were true, it would be possible for man to create man in a laboratory. We just talked about the cell. As he creates physical and chemical phenomena, man cannot even build one tissue cell or repair the same if it is damaged. He may be able to make a tissue cell alive for a time in artificial surroundings, but the tissue cell merely exists, does not function, or do the thing for which it was created, any more than a bear in hibernation shows activity. No, this life shows that it is an adaptable law, able to make instantaneous changes according to environmental conditions of tissue cell.
Wow.
None but the creator can change a law, make laws, or circumvent physical laws. So the life current must be a force directly from capital L law itself. It is not hard to see this, for the manifestation of the intelligence of life are everywhere about us in man, animal, insects, plants, and lower organisms. It builds all these, provides all their needs, circumvent adversity, repairs them when damaged, and maintains them until death. And then this power leaves them and rapidly return to their elemental state, molecules, and atoms, which is in the living, next paragraph, which is in the living thing, which a moment after is not in the dead. After what has gone, that has kept these molecules and atoms together in a unit of life, which is made to show manifestations of intelligence, sensibility, and signs of life, mental force, that which flows over nerves to their peripheral ending. This force or message is specific for the momentary needs of the tissue cell. It must therefore be a more highly organized force than that given to molecules and atoms. A lump of clay may be said to have some organization, for it is a lump, but Universal did not endow it with a special warden to see that it stays a lump. It has no power to remove it from danger of disintegration, but must take whatever fate brings it without any attempt to circumvent it.
Yeah.
Whoa. Now, Stephenson mentions creator. We talked about how many times he talks about God in here, many, many times. And what do you all think?
Not God in a supernatural way, but we're talking about observed phenomenon that is right here. Like I'm saying, we're not talking about unicorns here. Or mythical stuff. We're talking about organisms that are adapted.
Which is,
Are adapted.
When you think about it, it seems like science fiction. It's amazingness of this.
Oh yeah.
And that's why D.D. Palmer didn't like us using analogies of mechanics to explain the body. It's so much more than that. It's beyond that. And
but even if you look at the mechanics, I heard recently if you took your DNA, all of it, and put it end to end, it would be the distance. And this DNA is information. We're talking about cracking the code as if we know it all. Bullshit. The DNA is so big, if you put it end to end, it would be from the sun to Pluto and back. the diameter of the solar system is in your body. It's incomprehensible and it's natural and it's here.
Yeah.
It really does all seem like science fiction. And Ralph Stephenson here really deduces it upon deductions, like he's deducing it and deducing it down to its essentials, and therefore it becomes law, and it's literally irrefutable.
Yeah.
And he states it here, and it's when you think about it, it boggles your mind educationally. It's like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? It just seems so out there because it truly is deductions upon deductions. It really gets you to think about key things in life, such as what runs it and death. And us chiropractors, we talk about that. But to normal everyday people, they really don't think about that. They just go, do, right? Till it breaks down or something happens.
You know, it's almost miraculous that the human mind can take this miraculous moment and ignore it and just go humdrum and be bored with it. Every second, we're talking about 1.5 million cells are being created. And if you were standing inside of one of these cells, you'd get shredded by all of the transport mechanisms. Each one of those cells is a huge factory. I mean, and that's just the cells. You talk about the nervous system. There's approximately 1,200,000 nerve fibers going to 30 to 60 quadrillion. It's beyond comprehension. So we use the word God, but not in a woo-woo belief thing. This is not a thing of belief or faith. This is a thing of observation in the way it works. This is what's happening.
Well, when BJ said, he said, you know, I don't believe in God. I know God exists. You know, it's not a belief. It's like, it is blatantly obvious to me. And I feel the same way, but that's what he's conveying. And I'm so glad he told that story of his own experience. I think that was a bigness of the fellow within. I can't remember. I read it so long ago. But when he capitalized none but the creator, capital, I have it underlined. And then 2 lines down, the law itself. And the reason why I said that's capitalized, because that is the law of the creator. If the way I looked at it, right? He capitalized it because it's that important. That's universal law. Cannot be broken.
And we are the only people, in my observation, that are not separating science from religion. We are grounding it right here in this green book.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
You know, and BJ also said the medical doctors will deny that throughout the week, but on Saturday or Sunday, depending on their religion, right? Then they admire the creator, the intelligence,
right?
You know, that's there. So that's something similar that I tell patients too. I tell them, practice members, you know, I never believed in it. I still don't believe in it. Chiropractic is natural laws of physics, science and physics laws at work, universal law.
Between you and me, I have no use for belief. I don't want to go to a restaurant, be shown something, and they say, well, just believe that the food is coming. Belief doesn't do it for me. The experience does. And we're having this life experience, and Stephenson is breaking it down. So
Eloquently.
why is it so hard to comprehend? And like you're saying, hey, why aren't people getting it? It beats me. What's the deal?
They're not giving it. They're not giving the opportunity for it. It's not, you know, if something's withheld for you, you don't know it exists, right? We have to give it. And that's why we have to get to the academics that are teaching it.
Well, they've taken God and stuck him in a box on Sundays or Saturdays, depending on your religion. And it's given God a bad name, in my opinion.
You know, I don't know if we're powerful enough to do that. It's just that we're not giving people the power to have their own experience with God, universal, innate, and being able to have trust right? Because they've never been told anything.
I
And it's
bet you when your kids scraped their knee, you said, I know it hurts, but just watch, my child, watch
Yeah,
what happens in the next few days.
absolutely.
That's all we
Yeah.
need to do.
Yeah. I mean, the hard part is, running around and telling the parents, like, you got to let it bleed just a little bit. Let the bad stuff come out. Don't run water all over it. You don't need all that other
Yeah,
stuff.
well,
You don't have to
yeah.
run to the hospital for that. Kids have a rhinovirus is the big thing. Well, they said he has rhinovirus. I'm like, you don't realize that's a cold. That's what that definition is. Your child's going to be okay. It's going to be stronger for it because you just like last week we read the poem a third time because it's so important on page 260 that if we've never worked hard or never had to do anything, it actually makes a man weak or woman or anybody else. It's not about suffering. We've got to have the diligence to
Great
work
sailors
hard
are
and
made on rough waters.
there you go. Exactly. This is what Stephenson put in here. I won't even read it again. Read it 3 times because it was so important last time. Page 260, people can refer back to it. Let's read the next one. Principle number 26, comparison of universal and innate forces.
I can read it.
Go for it, Steve.
Principle number 26, comparison of universal and innate forces. In order to carry on the universal cycle of life, universal forces are destructive and innate forces are constructive as regards structural matter. From our study of physics, we know that the universe is full of energy. We see it manifested in every bit of matter. There seems to be no limit to the amount of energy that may be in the space occupied by matter, but there seems to be a limit as to how much of it a given piece of matter can express. Yet that limit may be of astonishing proportions. Just what may be the electrical potential in, say, a pint of water or a marble? Like matter, energy cannot be destroyed, but we see its manifestations reappearing in many different forms. We observe that energy seems to travel, or at least it can express itself in matter at a distance from its source. We say that it travels by radiation and conduction. When it radiates, it travels swiftly, approximately at the rate of 186,000 miles a second. As well as it travels by radiation, however, it seems to like to pause and play around, unquote, in matter. If this were not true, we could not have radio receiving sets, for the radio would scorn our aerials. So though it must travel much slower in matter, it seems that it really prefers that mode. With many forms of radiant energy, there can be interference with its transference. We will not say all forms, for we do not know, but we do know that an umbrella interferes with the sun's rays considerably. Lead hinders X-rays, brass hinders magnetic rays, etc. Somebody else, Barry, you want to take it?
In matter, energy travels at a widely variable rate of speed, depending upon the form of energy and upon the kind of material and the shape of the material. Through some materials, a given form of energy will scarcely travel at all. Thus, we find that electricity prefers some metals, such as gold, silver, copper, iron, and the like, but does not pass readily through glass or rubber. Heat will pass through silver, copper, and gold readily, but not glass, asbestos, etc. Magnetism passes through soft iron easily, but not brass or copper. or gold, and the like. Also, we find that since these forms are radiant, they will easily be caught by the kind of matter they prefer. There can be interference with the construction of these energies, as when the conductor has a gap or when its thickness is diminished. When interference with conduction is thus offered to a conducted form of energy, it will be transformed, partly or wholly, back into the radiant form or into some other form. As in a conductor of electricity, we find that electricity, when it suffers interference, transforms into heat and radiates. Mental energy in the body seems to obey the same laws. As to its radiation, that is another story and is too lengthy and entirely too theoretical to be within the scope of this article.
I want to stop there one moment. He's saying, I like that statement. We're bigger than what we are. I'm not sure if we could explain it in these pages, right? The mental energy. What do you guys think?
I think what he's getting at is that the nerve is conducting the impulse, and it's easier to interfere with the normal transmission of mental impulses through the conductive property of a nerve than it is, for example, of these meridians, which are harder to stop, just like the radio waves in my house. I mean, it's easier to cut off the electrical power cord to my house than it is to cut the electromagnetic forces going into my house. But I can just interfere with the electric cable going into my house. And that's similar, I think, is what he's getting at, as what we do. We are dealing with a conductive medium called the nerves, which can be interfered with.
Barry, you want to continue? Want me to go ahead? You got
one of the first things that hit me was at the very end. It says, as a conductor of electricity, when electricity is interfered with, it transforms into heat and radiates. And this is something where B.J. Palmer developed the neurocoulometer in 1924. And then from the neurocoulometer came the neurocalligraph, then the synchrotherm. And then now we have thermography, we have CLA, we have other instruments that are out there too, Titron. We have thermography now to show interference to this nervous system. And this really hits me because Stephenson was there 10 years afterwards. The NCM was invented, and here it is. This is science. So it's also in the application in our art, which also depends on the techniques that use this as well. So I use this daily. So this is important.
I heard, we used to use hot spots with the back of our hands, we would feel for heat. But I heard that many, many years ago, maybe the ancients, they would take wet sand and put it on a person's thermography concepts are probably thousands of years old.
Sure.
Yep.
When you watch some I love archaeology shows, and that where the ancient people in sculptures, they knew the more magnetic areas of these granite rocks and chiseled their sculptures in them and enhancing the magnetism within the rocks.
Don't you have that little poster that Hippocrates said, look well for the human spine for the cause of many ailments?
Yeah, absolutely. I have it on my desk at my office, right?
There you go.
What's interesting too is him talking about mental energy and then stepping back. He wants to mention it, but let's not get into it here. That's very intriguing because of the depthness that it can go, but also Clearview Sanitarium was here at the Palmer facility, and there were other sanitariums. There were sanitariums all over the country that were going on because the patients that were undergoing chiropractic care had seen mental differences, personality differences in their care. And so here we started these sanitariums as offices and sanitariums to help with the mental, because this is a very important part of our health. And that's one of the things that have came up since COVID one of the positive things is they did make us aware of our mental health. Chiropractors have always been talking about this.
Wow.
And that's
The
interesting.
educated, remember that diagram with the educated mind hooking up to innate mind? It's like any other organ. It needs blood, it needs nerves, it needs nutrition.
Well, Stephenson is very well written, and he's saying these things in conversation form. And if he didn't mean to say, I'm going to give you a little bit of thought to chew on, right? But I don't have time for it now. He may have been planning to write it in the future, but normally someone would just leave that out. I think he's put that in there for a very specific reason, is to get the chiropractor, the senior, to think a little more deeply, right? There's a reason for that to be there. There is absolutely no mistake for any word in this book to be there.
Again, it's not woo-woo here, because it says, like what Barry brought up, as in a conductor of electricity, we find electricity, when it suffers interference, transforms into heat and radiates.
Yeah. When you say woo-woo, I mean, in reality, we call things woo-woo that we don't understand.
Right.
And then we also want to belittle in a way, because there's so many things that I have no clue about that looks like absolute magic to me, right? But ultimately, there is something bigger than my own understanding. It doesn't matter if I understand it or not, right?
I remember when I was in school, we had to keep our sharing of this innate philosophy quiet. Otherwise, we'd get in trouble. We weren't allowed to go to DE. We had to keep it on the hush. And the majority of the class, when Cirasoli came, they kind of like went, what a nutcase. What's this guy's crazy? We were considered woo-woo. And what we're talking about is observable life phenomenon, and that's what Stevenson's doing.
Yeah. Observable. I like that. Observable life phenomenon. We're getting to, and it's 8:45 right now. This time has flown by because I'm passionate, and I feel you guys are all passionate about this too.
But
I think we should pick up
this. We need to finish at least another paragraph. Oh no, it goes to 260.
It goes on. There's a lot in this section till it gets to principle number 27, and it's worth reading. There's a lot that we can skip, but it's worth reading these pages. Okay, so
let me read you one sentence. Let me just read you the middle of that page. Next page.
Yeah.
The body then is no exception. Universal energies permeate every cell. That's later on that page.
Yeah.
And that excites us. For some reason, we get excited over it. For good reason.
How can you not, right? I mean,
because we know it's connected. We know it's connected. We know it's connected. And if you connect it, it's going to function better. We got it. We got the principles. All of us here right now, we're honored to be here because of our ancestors, our forefathers, Stephenson. Like, we know it's connected.
Maybe it's as simple as this thing plugging in. Maybe it's too simple for the complicated people.
Well, you know what? That's it. Someone posted something the other day, and I said, chiropractic's not based in logic. It's really based in spirit. If we put everything in if and then, we miss everything, right? Then it's boring, but then it really doesn't make sense if you only have if and then. That's what logic is made of. If you have this, then you have that. It's so much. That's why they're constantly trying to put a thumbnail. This is what happens when you adjust this vertebra. It's not the same in every being. Who knows what innate needs to heal? I don't know. It's not all logic. It's really spirit. You can't make it just logical. It has to, and it has to be, you have to have the philosophical. It can't just be mechanical. It has to be philosophical as well, which I also say it also has to be spiritual, because that's what we're really working with. But I say we pick this up again right at this spot. I marked it this time, okay? And we go from there. Anybody else?
Well, the art and science is evolving. The philosophy is as ancient as the hills.
We didn't make this up. he's eloquently saying these things in ways that us chiropractors can understand. I really feel Stephenson was getting a download, man. He had some really good insights, well written, very well educated man. I love reading his writing, quite honestly. It's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an awesome night. Carol, it's great seeing your wonderful, shining, happy face today. And same with you, Bob, and same with you, Steve, and same with you, Barry. And I'm going to be posting this on our Rumble page. And thank you. And then I'm going to post it also on our YouTube page. And keep sharing it, spreading it, putting it on your page too, okay? Bless you, everybody. Have a great night. And I'll see you on the other side, is what Sigafus used to say. Good night, everybody.
Good night.